Hey, LitPixel here, and this is a review of the McLaren MP4 6 mod for Assetto Corsa from the team at ASR Formula. This is version 0.7 of the car, and I'll say straight up, this car is worth a few dollars it'll cost you to get access to it. So, while this video is playing, get over to their site using the link in the description below and get hold of the mod. Before I get into the review of this mod, I will briefly describe why the McLaren MP4 6 is such an important car, both in terms of the evolution of open-wheel races and Formula 1 cars in particular. In short, this is a standout Formula 1 car, as it is the last car with a fully manual gearbox to win a Formula 1 Drivers' and Constructors' World Championship. Every car to win a championship since this one has had a semi-automatic paddle-operated gearbox. With all that in mind, this car is unique in that it is possibly the fastest single-seat race car to have a manual gearbox, making it very demanding to drive but highly rewarding when driven right. With the brief and somewhat half-assed history lesson behind us, what's the deal with this mod, and does it offer a worthy simulation of driving this amazing car to plebs like us who will never get the opportunity to drive the real thing? In short, yes, yes, and yes. Here I'll cover three main elements which make up a sim driving experience, and then go into a bit of detail about the experience itself. Let's start with the most obvious part of the car, the visuals. Looking at both the exterior and interior of the car, it's clear the mod team have done their research, gathered the right reference material, and faithfully recreated this car to a high degree of accuracy and detail. Moving on to sound, and I'm not going to say much here. Rather, what I'll do is play a brief onboard taken from this mod. As you can hear, the amazing mechanical shriek of this 3.5 litre Honda V12 engine has been recreated with an impressive degree of accuracy. The unique characteristics of the sound all through the rev range are there, and worth particular mention is the way the engine sounds when giving the throttle small stabs mid-corner, searching for the nearest moment to start winding on the throttle. It's sheer music. Moving to the single element that will make or break a mod, the physics. And this is a tricky one. While I've compared the visuals and audio elements of the mod with the actual car, with physics you can't do this, because without driving the real thing, you never have a truly accurate point for comparison. So rather than trying to comment on accuracy, I'll talk a bit about the fundamentals of car physics as they relate to this mod, and pretty much leave it at that. I will speak a little more about the handling in depth later on though. Firstly, I feel like the mod team are getting things right here at a fundamental level. The amount of grip the car generates under acceleration, braking and cornering all seem to be what you'd expect of a car of this nature. If you give it 100% throttle, it'll spin the rear wheels. If you give it too much brake, it'll lock the wheels. And the level of cornering grip seems to increase nicely as downforce increases. I know I'm glossing over this, but without driving the real car, that's all I can say in terms of how much of a realistic representation this mod is. We've compared visuals, audio and physics to the actual car this mod is representing. As I said before, I believe these three elements are something of a holy trinity when it comes to creating a good sim driving experience. I personally place greater emphasis on physics because I can enjoy a car that has substandard visuals and audio if the physics are up to scratch, but I won't bother driving a car that looks and sounds good if the physics are terrible. So, we arrive at the important part of the review, and I want to talk about what lies in the middle of this triangle, the conscious experience of driving the mod. This is what really matters, the subjective total that emerges from the sum of these three parts. In this instance, I believe the total is greater than the sum of the parts. While the mod team have faithfully recreated the vehicle as far as I can tell, the real magic here is in the quality of the experience you have while driving this mod. All the elements combine to create an absolutely sublime driving experience that ranks among any to be had with any of the official cars offered with Assetto Corsa. To explain what makes driving this mod such a good experience, I'll drive it on two different types of circuit which will highlight different elements of the car. Firstly, Monaco. Driving around Monaco in a car with this much speed, this much cornering grip and a manual gearbox is a frantic point-and-shoot type of experience. Gear changes, applications of throttle, brake and steering are all rapid-fire, seat-of-the-pants type movements. The bumps in the circuit mean you're fighting with the car even in a straight line, and the small margin for error due to the close proximity of the barriers just heightens the whole thing. In the 80-odd second lap, there are probably 3 seconds at the exit of the tunnel where you aren't at maximum concentration. On this type of circuit, you need a car that behaves like a scalpel. You want to point it once and be confident that it's going where you pointed it. Cars that drive unpredictably or with poor balance just don't hook up and flow around here. This car does. It really does. It transitions from acceleration to braking with incredible poise. It changes directions capably and predictably, and it does everything with enough speed to keep you very well challenged. A good lap here in this car feels like barely controlled chaos and is one of the most satisfying sim driving experiences you are likely to have in terms of single car hot lapping. I love it. The quality of experience to be had here is a real testament to the work of the team who produced the mod. Next, Spa, a circuit that requires a somewhat different approach to driving and highlights different elements of the mod. In terms of the variety of circuits that this car actually raced on, Spa and Monaco are almost at the extreme opposite ends of the spectrum. While Monaco requires a point-and-shoot abrupt style of driving, Spa requires slower, more progressive inputs to steering, and the long constant radius corners demand progressive applications of throttle at exit. The track surface is smooth and the curbs are quite low, so everything feels more gradual and controlled. The beautiful flowing nature of the circuit highlights the mid-corner stability of this car and the predictability with which everything happens. With a direct drive wheel, the increase in effort required to steer the car as downforce increases is fantastic. With force set at just 60% in Assetto Corsa, Pouin and Blanchiment require large amounts of strength to convince the car to turn in. Additionally, throttle on oversteer occurs with enough warning that you can catch the car and get it into some very satisfying power slides. While the limit of the car is quite high, the way it communicates to you as it's approaching that limit is very clear and predictable. For me, this was the single most noticeable improvement that came with version 0.7 of this car. It's predictable enough that you can set it up with a small amount of turn-in oversteer and use that to help you rotate the car into corners. This helps you to brake a little later and bring your braking almost all the way down to the apex of the corner, balancing the rear of the car with steering as you do it. All in all, Spa highlights the balance and predictability of the car. Being able to finesse this car into Les Combes and through Malmedy is a real pleasure, and again highlights the good work the mod team have done to create a genuinely pleasing driving experience. In summary, get it. That's all I can really say. The car's great, it looks and sounds fantastic, it drives well, and it's up there with the genuine licensed content in terms of quality. I hope this has been helpful. Until next time, Lit Pixel out.